Sorry, 1 second. Actually. There you go.
Great. Welcome to the March meeting of the Boulder Housing Advisory Board. Daylight Savings Edition. I'm Michael Lucchese, the chair of the board. And we'll start the meeting with roll call. Cab members, Philip Ogren. Here. Karen Hoskin.
Here.
Oops.
Good job.
That's good. Karen Clayman.
Here.
Our newest member will introduce formally in a moment, Stephen Hennessy. Here. Danny Teodoro. Not here yet. Julianne Ramsey.
It's spring break, so I'm guessing she's probably ready.
We do have a quorum. 5 members present. So we will open the meeting officially, and the first order of business is welcoming. We do have members, not a new member, but we're pre-appointed Karen Hoskin. So we're really happy that you replied again, and very happy to have you back. It's a really valuable addition to have. So thank you so much for doing that, and thank you, council, for reappointing you.
Thank you.
And then we have a brand new member, Stephen Hennessy, who I sat with over coffee yesterday and got to know. He's great. Going to be a fantastic addition. And maybe you should tell us a little bit about yourself for those also zooming in.
Sure. So my name's Stephen Hennessy. I go by Chip. I moved to Boulder in 2015 to attend law school. And after law school, I worked at a big law firm in Denver doing commercial litigation work. After about 3 years of practice there, I started my own practice here in Boulder. And I do a mix of work, including insurance litigation for homeowners, eviction defense work for tenants, as well as, habitability disputes, and then consumer protection type litigation. I applied for this position because a lot of my work over the last 3 years has touched housing issues. And I believe that when it comes to local government and specifically the city government in Boulder, I think housing is the #1 issue that our city has to deal with. Because it really makes a difference in who can actually live in this community. I think we have a tendency to give a lot of lip service to diversity. But if we want to be a diverse community, that means actually having places where people from different backgrounds can afford to live. And that means, both low-income housing and affordable housing, but also housing for middle-income people who are looking to buy. So, I'm no stranger to the fact that Boulder is one of the most expensive places to live in Colorado. And I look forward to contributing to a conversation here about how we can make it more accessible to all sorts of people.
Great. Well, again, welcome. And to your point about diversity of backgrounds and opinions, you are a renter, right?
I am.
And you're younger than I am. Okay, well, that's a double right there. That's great. As you know, we have a mix of backgrounds and habits, and we're happy to have yours join the mix. Okay, next item, agenda review. That's item 3. Item 4 is we'll be approving the minutes from February. We'll have public participation with open comment as item 5. Item 6, matters from the board. We have one item there, and we are delighted to see Brian Rosbert, the Executive Director of Housing Colorado here, who's going to update us on what's happening at the State House with housing legislation, which I think is quite a bit. We don't, by the way, have any items that we'll be voting on tonight other than approving the minutes, I think, unless something changes. Item 7, matters from staff. We'll be talking about a retreat next month. Instead of a HEC meeting, we do a retreat every year and try to set our agenda for the coming year. It's also a good opportunity to get to know each other and new members of HEB. And there'll be elections for vice chair and chair coming up in May. Item 8, debrief meeting and calendar check. And item 9 is adjournment, which generally happens no later than 9 p.m. We may also have our planning board liaison listening in. She had said that she had a cough and didn't want to burden us with that in person, but we're hoping that Laura Kaplan, who's been our liaison for about a year, and I think we'll be rolling off that role. Hope she's listening in and can participate as well. The other day I told her she's the Caitlin Clark of planning board liaisons, and she said she didn't know who played Caitlin Clark.
I'm here, Michael.
If anybody has any questions about that, give them now. Otherwise, we'll go on to approval of minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of February 28th, 2024? Will there a second?
Second,
Yep, so we got a second. Is anyone against approving the minutes?
I'm gonna abstain because I didn't.
Okay, the minutes are approved 401. Public participation. Do we have everyone on Zoom who would like to comment, take their 3 minutes and share thoughts with the board?
Yep, we have one.
Is it Lynn?
No, it's Mark here.
Okay.
Well,
Mark?
I'll go through the rules just for
Oh, yeah, okay, go ahead.
sleeper Chip's benefit.
Sorry, I meant to mention we have our great staff here as well, Jay Signet and Tiffany Bowler.
Or thank you. So for public participation, we typically just go over the rules. So the city has engaged with the city is engaged with the community members to create a co-vision for productive, meaningful, and inclusive civic conversations. So the idea is to support the physical and emotional safety of all community members, staff, board commission members, as well as democracy, people of all ages, identities, lived experiences, and political perspectives. For more information about this, go to our website. So just to follow our examples of the rules of decorum found in the Boulder Revised Code. These will be upheld during the meeting by our esteemed chair. We ask that all remarks and testimony be limited to matters related to city business. No participant shall make threats or use forms of intimidation against any person. Obscenity, racial epithets, and other speech and behavior that disrupts or otherwise impedes the ability to conduct the meeting are prohibited. And we request that participants sign up to speak using their name, they're commonly known by, and display their full name before being allowed to speak. Currently, only audio testimony is permitted. That's it. Thank you. I can call Mark.
All right.
Thank you, Jay. And we did have Mark ready to do your 3 minutes. Mark, I see your hand up and take it away.
Okay, you're able to hear me?
We need a little more volume.
Are you? Hello?
There we go.
You still having trouble hearing me?
No, that's pretty good.
Okay, all right. Well, howdy, folks. It's been a while since I have spoken to Hab. And things have happened between my last time and now. I am now part of the Tenant Advisory Committee, which is part of EPRIS, the Eviction Protection and Rental Assistance Services. And I am also back on the Board of Commissioners for Boulder Housing Partners. So I'm addressing you as an individual, however, in spite of being part of those, but both of those are relevant to what I would like to address you all about. Namely, of course, affordable housing and tenant issues. And I have raised this issue before about that HAB has not addressed tenant issues specifically. There might have been some glancing comments about it, but and I'm glad to see Stephen is here as a renter. That helps with, and of course, I believe Philip is also a renter. I'm not sure. I can't remember. Yes. Anyway.
In progress.
I really want to encourage strongly HAB to consider being more inclusive of renter issues in its deliberation and its advice to city council. And I know you have a retreat coming up next week, and actually so does Boulder Housing Partner Board of Commissioners. We also have a retreat next month. And I would love to see some collaboration between these three bodies. In addition to also the Human Relations Commission. As I might have said before, 40 years ago, when I was a active tenant activist with the city, the Human Relations Commission often dealt with tenant issues because the city council did not want to deal with them. And so they did deal with it quite a bit. And they haven't for quite some time. I recently addressed them and proposed also bringing them back into the world of tenant issues and collaborating, and there was some interest, I think, on their part too. So anyway, I would like to just end by saying I would love to see collaboration between the different bodies on tenant issues, especially as it relates to affordable housing, especially with the huge amount of state issues that are being. And I'll leave it there unless you have questions.
Well, thank you. As you noticed, we have a tenants' rights attorney on HAB now, and I met with him yesterday, and he's promised to bring that issue up with HAB. It's something we haven't discussed a lot, maybe not enough. So appreciate your comments.
Can I ask a question? Do you have a short list of bullet items you would have us work on if you were putting our priorities together?
Yes, I do, but here again, I'm not speaking on behalf of two organizations, but they also would probably have some issues. We've talked, well, at least with the tenant advisory committee, they have spoken about some of these issues too. But there haven't been any, they have not made any formal recommendations to city council. TAC is currently trying to expand its purview beyond evictions. So the quick answer, relatively speaking, is yes, I do, although I wasn't prepared to deal with them at this very moment, but be happy to write them down. And again, I'd love to see some collaboration.
Are the Everest meetings and the Boulder Housing Partner meetings open to the public, or do we have to have special invitation to attend?
No, those meetings are open every month. And just like you all, they have public comment in the beginning.
So Mark, can I suggest that you send your list to HAB? Because I think it would be helpful for the retreat discussion next month.
I'd be happy to do that.
You know where it is, it's on the website, you can find it.
Okay, thanks.
In terms of having bodies meet jointly, I think probably best for us to get a list of items to talk about and then maybe do that a little farther down the road. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, and I want to make sure to get the other groups on board too. Truthfully, I haven't brought this up in this particular way to Boulder Housing Partners, even though they're the largest landlord in town, and deal with a lot of residents. We would need to figure out how to best collaborate to deal with these issues.
Suggestions. Thank you, Mark. Anybody have any other questions? Okay, do we have anyone else waiting for the public to comment?
Your housing Colorado, right?
Okay, we'll go on to item 6, matters from the board. We're delighted to have a guest speaker with us tonight, Brian Rosberg, the Executive Director of Housing Colorado. You've been there at least 3 years, haven't you, Brian?
3 years in April.
Yeah, a very powerful, strong statewide organization, advocates on behalf of affordable housing policies and communities throughout Colorado. We were lucky enough to have Brian's partner Laura here a few months ago talking about parking issues.
That was a coincidence or not?
Okay. We made up our last name, so we have a whole lot of.
I think it's as a couple.
Yeah.
And as you all know, there's an awful lot happening with housing legislation in the State House, and that'll be resolved roughly in the next month or so. And budget bills didn't quite make it through last year, and maybe things are a little different this year. We'll find out. So thank you for being here, and we'll turn it over to you, Brian.
Sure. And I'm gonna share my screen. I think I figured this out, so.
Go to the bottom right, the little stream.
So just a little bit about Housing Colorado, and I really appreciate the invitation and the opportunity to be with you all tonight. Housing Colorado is a membership association of about 350 organizations around the state who are working in the affordable housing realm. So we represent everybody from frontline service providers to architects and contractors and some local governments. We work with the public housing authorities on legislative issues. And our vision is really clear. It's that every Coloradan has safe, healthy, quality, affordable housing in thriving communities. That's our vision. That's our guiding star. That's what we work for every day. And we do that in a couple of ways. We work to educate the industry on kind of leading edge topics so that they know what's going on at the local, state, and federal level. And then we do advocacy work on behalf of the industry, mostly at the state level, but we've started to work in the local sphere as well, knowing that a lot of decisions are made locally, like in rooms like this. So that's what we do. I wanted to start just really quickly tonight with just kind of laying the context for where we're at as a state. One measure that we can use to think about our housing need is what does it cost to afford a modest 2-bedroom rental in the state? This is from the National Low Income Housing Coalition's Out of Reach report. And as you can see, we have the 8th highest what's called housing wage in the country. Housing wage is what it takes, what you would have to earn per hour in a 80-hour week. So kind of what you'd have to earn per hour to be able to afford that 2-bedroom rental. And that's anywhere in the state. So this is the average, $32.13. If you're making minimum wage, you have to work 94 hours per week to be able to afford a rental. So that's more than a 2-income earner household on minimum wage can really afford. Another way we can think about the need is to think about it in terms of supply. So as we think about supply for our lowest income renters around the state, we have roughly 165,000 extremely low income renter households. That's folks making about 30% or less of the area median income. And out of each 100 units, there are 27 available to those types of renters. Out of every 100 that need a rental of that type, 27 can actually find the housing that they need and not be cost burdened. We can talk about cost burden by income group. So this graph really shows in terms of being cost burden, meaning you're spending more than 30% of your income on housing, or extremely cost burden, meaning you're spending more than 50% of your income on housing. You can see on this graph, the blue is cost burden, yellow is severely cost burden. As you'd expect, lower income households are more cost burdened. What we're finding, though, as you go further to the right on this chart, more and more folks making middle income, and Chip, you mentioned middle income folks, more and more we're seeing them be cost burdened as well. The numbers for this report lag a little bit. So we've anecdotally seen, and especially in some of our higher cost communities, that middle income folks are feeling the crunch of the housing crisis as well, and are more and more spending more of their income on housing. So how did we get here? One one way that we got here is a real severe drop in production following the Great Recession in 2008. So we had a 40% drop in housing production, but can anybody guess what the population did in that same decade?
40%.
It grew the same amount as the previous decade. So we had population come in, we had housing production decrease, and we've never really caught up from that. And we're not producing, and then we had the pandemic, which affected production as well. So we've got this huge gap in production that has really contributed, I think, to our supply demand problem. Basic economics says as supply drops and demand goes up, prices increase as well. So this is one explanation. There are probably other explanations, but this is one thing that's come from the Division of Housing and some numbers that they track is this is a part of our supply and demand problem. So the reason you all invited me here was to talk about legislation. Over the past few years, the legislature and the governor's office have really prioritized housing as an issue of top concern. Starting with my first session in 2021, we had a whole bunch of federal ARPA dollars that the state government used and directed to be spent on housing and affordable housing. So we had the Affordable Housing Transformational Task Force meet over the summer and fall of 2021, and they came up with some recommendations for the legislature to spend about $550 million in one-time federal funds on housing. In 2022, we also saw the passage of Proposition 123, which in a lot of ways backfills that federal one-time spending. So the state created new programs with that federal one-time money. And now Prop 123 is kind of coming in behind some of that and creating new programs and new opportunities for funding for affordable housing. We've seen a lot of policy bills trying to get at issues around affordable housing. Again, starting in 2021, we had passage of House Bill 1117, which allowed local communities to initiate inclusionary housing ordinances and do a fix to statute that allows for that. 2022, 2023 have all been busy years for housing legislation. And 2024 is busy as well. Just quickly, here are Housing Colorado strategic or policy priorities. I won't read this to you, but each year we come up with legislative priorities that sort of guide our work throughout the legislative session. We are working, especially, and we try to be responsive to the political context and what's going on out there. So working on things like land use and zoning reform, again this year, a statewide growth strategy, which is something that came out of the Affordable Housing Transformational Task Force that really didn't get addressed in 2022 or 2023, but it is working its way through a process now. Definitely something important to get a statewide and local glimpse of the housing needs in our state so that we can be responsive to those. Something that's really important for us there at the bottom is increasing home ownership opportunities for low to moderate income folks. Many of those families and households are priced out of the home ownership market, and we're looking at creative ways to try and get at the home ownership conundrum.
Can I interrupt?
Sure.
With a question. So that's a really key issue here in Boulder, what you just described. Like, what are some of the techniques that could be implemented to allow really increase opportunities for home ownership, especially for like so-called missing middle?
Sure. One of the hard things is there's a lot of resources and a lot of programs out there for rental production, right? We've got the low income housing tax credit, we've got the state credit, we've got programs for home ownership. I think that there are some property tax abatement and relief efforts that are out there. Especially for home ownership, nonprofits and community land trusts that are trying to produce product aimed and targeted at low and moderate income folks. One thing that we're working on is construction defects, because we've seen multifamily homeownership, basically, there's no production in the state right now. So we've been working on kind of the construction defect side of that as a way to get at the issue. There was part of a bill this year, and it got stripped out of the bill, would have given a little boost to local governments and their Prop 123 commitments. So if you remember, Proposition 123 require communities opt in and have to grow their affordable housing stock by 3% per year over a 3-year average. There's some thought about giving a boost to local communities who donate land for home ownership opportunities and give them a little bit of an incentive in their Proposition 123 commitments. That idea wasn't fully baked, and a lot of us in the affordable housing world were like, let's give Prop 123 a chance to kind of work before we start tinkering with it. So yeah, there's some strategies here and there, but there isn't, we don't have a state credit for home ownership, which would go a long way towards subsidizing some of these projects. And I don't know if that's something that could be on the table in the future.
That last point about donating land, that's something this would be like encouraging public agencies.
Yeah, local governments, school districts. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
The thing that pops out at me when I see this is your mission statement ends with thriving communities. And I wonder if these are meant to just like, if housing can become affordable and available, that thriving communities will just spontaneously happen, or if you have policy areas that are actually about like thinking about that in a focused sort of way, like what is it, the structures we live in, the kinds of public spaces, the kinds of a lot of talk about neighborhoods built for people rather than for cars and that kind of thing. I just thought I'd throw that out there too.
So the thriving community, it was when we took a look at our vision and mission statements a couple of years ago, that was definitely something we wanted to try and encapsulate kind of everything that you're talking about, but also to avoid the trap of locating affordable housing projects in places that are food deserts or transit deserts. So making sure that, the development that is happening that has affordable components to it, or, things that we're working on and our members are working on, really are able to be a part of the fabric of a neighborhood, of a community, and not be sort of set aside or set apart from, all of those things that you sort of mentioned.
Could you speak more to reforming the state's construction defect laws? I'm familiar with the statute because I've litigated under it, but more from a policy perspective, how does our current statute impair the construction of, affordable entry-level housing?
Sure. So the current statute, there's a number of components that we're working on in terms of reform, but generally, the insurance market has left the state because of the way our construction defects statute is articulated. So right now, if you're going to build condos, you've got to have a RAP policy that is basically the same as explosives manufacturers has to have. So it's really expensive, and it just means that condo developments can't pencil, especially condo developments for affordable. So any condos that do get produced in the state are luxury, and even those are kind of few and far between. And so, issues like the statute of repose, the way in which contractors might have a right to remedy a construction defect, those are a couple of the issues that we're working on. We want to make sure that we strike the right balance though, and not exclude residents from having a pathway to cure a construction defect. But at the same time, make it a little bit more attractive for the insurance market to come back so that, you know, we can build for sale multifamily.
Why is it more problematic for builders who develop condos compared with single family homes? Like what is in the statute that makes it, I guess, more expensive to insure the development of condos?
I think it's a matter of scale. So, you know, construction defect, you have more of an opportunity in a multifamily property to for, you know, and this, I'm not disparaging lawyers at all, but for you know, the plaintiff side to reap the benefits of a lawsuit. Just because there's a bigger economy of scale there. If you're talking a big multifamily complex, and you find issues, and again, you know, wanting to make sure that that residents still have a right to get something fixed, but you know, have that opportunity for a contractor to do that work or to have a mutually agreed upon fix before it goes to litigation. And sort of what we're finding as well is that at the end of the day, after settlements and lawyers with the fees that are collected, there's usually not enough money left to actually cure the defect. And so you know, there's a lot to be said about construction defects, but it's definitely a hot topic that folks are working to address for both sides.
Right, and condos are vulnerable because the HOA is sort of the portal for, and for the, again, that leads you to that scale that you mentioned, as opposed to like a single family or homeowner. Go ahead, Steve.
It's not like like this is theoretical, like we worry that this construction defects law is constraining condo developments, like that whole market has collapsed.
Right.
I mean, we're not, so, I mean, we're not building condos anywhere in the state, basically. I mean, yeah. So that seems like out of balance. Sure.
So have you finished your presentation? Like, are our questions in?
Oh, no. I'm just getting started.
Because I have a whole bunch of comments and stuff, but maybe I'll,
Want us to wait.
I don't mind if what
It
maybe.
doesn't matter. I live at home with 3 people who love to interrupt me, so, you know.
I'm specifically curious about this one. I live in one of the I'm not gonna say one of the only, but I feel like it's one of the only condo complexes in Boulder. And I rent from an owner of a condo. It's probably one of the more affordable ways to rent. And there's just not many condo options in Boulder. You know, we have limited space to develop, and I've always thought that if there's gonna be more ownership opportunities, it's probably condos. So that's one that I'm curious about. And I've heard over and over again that construction defects laws are standing in the way of condo development. So I'm just trying to wrap my brain around that a little better.
So maybe I'll give you so I'm a commercial real estate lender, so I have a financing perspective of this. So I have financed several condo construction loans, and they all tend to be buildings that are 50 units or less, because it kind of is under the radar of the ambulance chasers, right? So like if it's a bigger building, then it was more likely that these attorneys would say, oh, the roof leaks, and instead of letting the developer fix the roof, they do sort of a class action suit. And so a bunch of developers are basically like, I'm not going to do a bigger project. I'm only going to do a littler project. And you're absolutely right that the way that they mitigate that risk is with the wrap policy, which is very expensive, so these condos tend to be more expensive, but they also complain that they're then on the hook for like 7 years of sort of attending meetings and being part of an HOA and sort of that like lingering obligation. And it's not like they're intending to build something that's shoddy, but the potential liability is getting to the point where they don't want to do it anymore. And I think you're right, that historically condos are an entryway for home ownership, and you can start owning a unit and building your equity and establishing credit. And then after several years, either rent it out to somebody else and buy a single family home or sell it and do it. But we've basically eliminated that stepping stone to home ownership,
Well, I
like
think,
an unintended consequence.
you know, when you're, let's say, 100-unit HOA, it's a lot easier for that 100-unit HOA to hire a lawyer than it is for, you know, single home. Because you can pull resources. So I kind of see where that concern is. I'm wondering, I'm aware that, you know, with a lot of townhouse developments, they don't always have an HOA. It's more like a shared wall agreement, which operates a little differently. And I wonder, do you see the same problem with the development of townhomes compared with like a condo complex?
I think there are some issues with townhomes, but like Karen said, you know, they kind of fly under the radar because they're not as lucrative.
Right.
And they're not all sharing a roof, right? Or a similar structure or whatever. And so like, if there's one problem, it might be more contained than if you're in a building where it's more likely to impact the whole building.
Well, this is an important issue, so I hope you don't mind if we keep going a little bit.
Yeah.
Sort of related to all this, if there were a legislative remedy to the construction defects issue, in your opinion, would that possibly open the door to a lot more rental apartments being converted to condos to provide more ownership opportunities?
That's a good question, and we haven't really worked on that quite yet. You know, there is a statute of repose for bringing a construction defect claim. So, you know, I would imagine those buildings, those developments would probably be beyond the statute of repose if they converted. So you might not have the construction defects issue as prominent in a conversion type environment.
Has there,
So what do other states do? Like, it seems like Colorado is unique in the construction defect issue and the lack of condos. So what are the other 49 states doing?
Some have what we're trying to do, and I'll just mention it now. So Senate Bill 106 is trying to do a few things. One is the right to remedy, so that contractors have a right to fix a problem before it goes to litigation. So there's a process that's outlined there. There's an issue around what's called negligence per se. So it basically says that if there's like a violation that doesn't have a health and safety implication, that doesn't qualify as a construction defect. So like, you know, my wife says this all the time, like they don't design perfect buildings as Shopworks, and perfect buildings don't get constructed. Like there's always, you know, 3 screws are by code in drywall. Somebody did 2. That doesn't necessarily make a construction defect claim. And one of the issues that's been raised as well is the pretty low threshold. It's just a majority threshold of owners to bring a construction defects claim. And so raising that threshold a bit is part of the legislation. So those are some things that other
I thought it
states.
was to raise it to the majority. I thought it was something like absurdly lower than the majority.
It's 50 right now.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. But the legislation as it currently stands would be 60. So a little bit, you know, a little bit higher threshold, and that aligns with other decisions that HOAs have to make as well. So those are some small, you know, they might seem small, but together kind of add up to a bigger impact.
Can I follow up on that one? Sure. In terms of other states, because I think you get construction defects gets blamed a lot. So what's your experience with other states? Are they building ownership? Are they building a lot more condos than Colorado?
Not like an exponential number. There has been a trend in the market towards apartment construction. And even, you know, building single family homes for rent, like build to rent products. But there are, you know, other states are still building these opportunities, and they're not just a stepping stone to home ownership. They're also a step down for older folk who might be in a large home that they no longer need that space, and it's an opportunity for folks to step down and remain owners as well.
I mean, I guess that's my point. I mean, from what like when we started the affordable home ownership program back in the 2000s, most of the market was building ownership. And then so it's like it's cyclical, right? So I remember reading council memos where council was complaining that there were too many home ownership units being built and not enough rentals. And then it switches, and the same lament comes, look, we don't have enough home ownership. So a lot of it has to do with larger market forces and less to do with what's happening in Colorado with construction defects.
Well, I feel like in Boulder in particular, every unit I've ever rented in Boulder was owned by someone, not like a commercial landlord, but by someone who owned a condo and they were leasing it out. And it usually was something along the lines of, oh, I bought this unit for my kid when they went to CU 10 years ago and we decided to hold on to it. That might be unique to Boulder, but I think, you know, having affordable condos to own can also result in more rental units on the market. I think especially in Boulder, I've seen that.
Cool. Interestingly, one of the places that's experienced a lot of construction defects lawsuits is Vancouver, BC. And they actually had a period of about 10 years that they called the leaky condo crisis. There were like 1,000 buildings that had to be, you know, they were sued and they had to repair the building. So I think that was sort of, you know, people in the United States got the idea. and important.
Yeah, definitely. You probably all know this, but part of the political context for our legislative session is we've got a Democratic governor, we've got a supermajority of Democrats in the state house, and close to that in the state Senate. So a lot of the legislation, you know, Democrats kind of can have their way as long as they can agree as a caucus on things. So just I always like to put that slide in there. Also like to highlight this, that this is from the governor's State of the State speech this year. We were hoping he wouldn't do another Yoda impression, but he did. But one of the things he talked about housing for a long time in the speech, but one of the things he said is that housing is a matter of statewide concern, which just really sets the context for some of the legislation that he and his allies are pushing this year. He said this last year in a State of the State, and you know, we ended up with a very large land use and zoning bill, Senate Bill 213, which would have preempted a lot of local control. That bill failed at the very end of session. It died on the calendar. And so, you know, they've kind of rethought that, and I'll get into some of those bills here in a second. For right now. So I highlighted about 12 bills, and I don't know if I need to get into the details of all of these, but several of these bills, House Bill 1007, 1313, sorry, and the bottom one should be 1304, not 1313 again. parking minimums, and 1152 are all smaller bites of this puzzle, or smaller bites of the apple. They all come out of 213 from last year, but have taken different forms. So it's not like straight preemption of local control. There's incentives that come along with this, but there is some preemption in these as well. The occupancy limits bill would prevent local governments from enforcing occupancy limits that they might have in the books, unless there's safety and health and safety reason behind them. I'll get into 13 because that's the big one in a second. 1304, which is there at the bottom as 1313, would eliminate parking minimums statewide, so local governments could no longer have parking minimums on the books. 1152, I'm just kind of jumping around here a little bit, is a bill around accessory dwelling units. So in communities within metropolitan planning organizations, folks with single family property would have a right to build an accessory dwelling unit. There's some incentives for their construction and incentives for local governments to be able to implement those. And then 1313, the transit oriented communities bill, is kind of the big shining star of the governor's proposals this year. So this bill would, within about 31 communities, I think is the number now, within the metropolitan planning organizations within the state. Local communities would have to basically upzone land to make more dense development of it possible near transit. So they would have to have an average zoning density of 40 units per acre in what are defined as transit oriented communities. It's about a quarter mile from transit stop, exempts things like parks, cemeteries, airports, places that you wouldn't want to build. You wouldn't want to build on, which I don't know how many airports are close to transit, except for maybe DIA.
But we're laughing because there's talk about our older airport, but we're not going to bring it up.
That in House Bill 1313 would also create a new state affordable housing credit for those developments near transit. It would be a $30 million credit spread out over 5 years. That would help incentivize the development of rent-regulated affordable housing.
Okay, does that mean deed restricted?
Deed restricted, yeah.
I can't help thinking about the north end of the B line in Westminster.
Mhm.
Cause when it opened, I went down there just to ride it into downtown, and it's like a rail station with a big park and ride garage surrounded by single family homes, And I thought, man, this seems like ripe for some kind of reform or change or whatever.
Actually, it's changed since then. There's been a fair amount of multifamily development. There's also a very nice park there. It's really kind of a nice community amenity.
And the thing to remember about 1313 is that nothing has to get built. It's just the zoning capacity has to be there for it.
So, POD, how is the bill defining that? Could it be a Mustang stop?
So it's complicated, but mostly like service every 30 minutes or less, either bus rapid transit or train or bus service that's that quick. So it's really like they've narrowed it down to about 31 communities, mostly in the metro area, that would be affected by this bill. So I'd have to look at the complete details on what's defined as a transit oriented community, but it's along those lines. Some other bills that we're following, so Senate Bill 174 is that strategic growth bill I talked about. It's in an interesting place right now because they're using a lot of the terminology that we like to think about in terms of like strategic growth, like anti-displacement, considerations for water, affordability strategies. Just the way that they're using the words aren't the same as, I don't know if you've ever talked to somebody who uses the English language and the words, but they don't work in the order or the way that they're doing it. It's sort of that kind of conundrum. So we're working to help amend that bill. It's supposed to be up in committee next week. The Senate Bill 64 is an interesting one that would aggregate eviction court filing data so that we'd have a better sense of be able to respond better to the eviction issues, the eviction crisis that's going on with kind of more real-time data, where evictions happening, be able to overlay some census data, to see what kind of communities are affected, and be able to be responsive with interventions. House Bill 1175, it would be a first right of refusal for expiring deed restricted properties for local governments to be able to make a first right of refusal to match an offer on an expiring property or to make an offer on another multifamily property. That bill actually in a different form passed the legislature last year and was vetoed by the governor.
Can I ask a question on that one? My understanding with that was that the timeline for when like a housing authority would need to make a decision and close was like 6 months or a year. And I love that idea, but I thought the issue was if you could shorten the timeline and say something like 90 days, then in theory, the seller should be agnostic as to who buys it. If somebody's going to pay more, but they may not want to wait 6 months for the housing authority to come up with their bid.
That was definitely one of the issues with last year's bill, and that's the timelines have been shortened dramatically. The one thing that they've added in is kind of a early alert system. So it's not hey, we're selling our property, but within 2 years of a property expiring, that the owner would notify the local government that this property is going to expire in 2 years, so that the local government, if they wanted to, could get their act together, get the resources together to be able to then make an offer if that went up for sale, if it didn't go for re-syndication or another kind of avenue to keep it affordable.
So what do you understand when he says when a property is going to expire?
Oh, sorry. Sometimes I get.
Actually, no.
So when affordable housing gets built with tax credits, there is a term in which it has to remain affordable. And at the end of that term, it can convert to market.
I see.
So when that's what it's called when it expires, and that term is it somewhat depends on the financing sources, but with federal LIHTC, it's 15 and 15. So you can start with 15, re-syndicate, get more tax credits at 15 years to revamp the property, and then extend to 30. But some communities that have their own funding sources might have a longer deed restriction requirement.
These are usually multi-family, like apartment building type
It's
things.
pretty much all multifamily.
Most of the nation in Boulder, because we require permanent affordability, right? Because we have local funding that we put into a project.
Can you speak more to the eviction legislation?
Sure.
What would you like to know?
Well, it sounds like you said it's just tracking data.
Mm-hmm.
Like what are they trying to change about the eviction laws to accomplish that?
So it would require the state judicial branch to collect this information, create a dashboard from state courts and from Denver. we understand that Denver operates their own eviction,
Denver County Courts like its own
its own thing.
thing compared to all the other county courts in the state, yeah.
So all of, so there's kind of a list of non-identifying information that can be taken out of eviction court filings. And the hope is to take that information, like zip code level data, put it in a dashboard, so it's publicly available. Perhaps even have some deeper data that can get used by research organizations. And just be able to, really understand the full picture, the full scope of eviction crisis that we've got going on.
Because it's interesting, recent legislation in Colorado made it so that eviction filings remain suppressed. Meaning it's not, most court records are typically available to the public. Eviction's not available to the public unless the tenant actually gets evicted and there's a judgment entered against them. And the idea is that if people get hit with an eviction notice or what have you, and then they figure out a way to resolve it with their landlord before they go in front of the judge, they don't have a public eviction on their record. And that's been a very helpful tool for many tenants who are sort of in that gray zone. They haven't had the judge come down and, say, you gotta get out, but they're in the process. It helps sort of maintain their rental records. They can find a new place to live.
So
And
being legally evicted is tantamount to having conviction on your record.
I don't know if it's the same. I think it's,
that's.
I would probably advise that having a criminal conviction's worse than an eviction,
Okay,
but
okay. Well, you meant.
if the
public
landlord does a
record.
background check and the landlord's more risk adverse, they might say, I don't want to take this tenant
Oh, I
because
see.
they've had a prior eviction.
Will it show up on your
Follow-
credit?
follows
union?
It could, in theory, and the idea is these suppressed court records, the public doesn't have access
Yes,
to.
it's not gonna follow you on your job application or applying to school or something.
It all depends, like if, you're applying for a place and your new landlord calls up the old one, they might still say, oh, they were a bad tenant or something like that. But it's one way to just keep the record suppressed. The idea being just because you've been accused of unlawful detainer doesn't mean you actually did it, so you shouldn't have this public record unless, a judge finds you indeed committed unlawful detainer. So, no, I find that interesting, but I guess it's just data points for policymakers.
Can I ask a follow-up that's kind of adjacent to this? The 213 bill, if I remember, had a kind of more comprehensive data collection provision in that for like all, housing needs assessments and whatnot. Is there anything comparable to that?
So 174 is trying to accomplish that. And I kind of skimmed over it with the issues that we're having with it. It would require communities with a population of 1,000 or more to complete a housing needs assessment before 2027. And the state would do a statewide housing needs assessment. So the local could do their needs assessment as a part of a regional assessment as well. So the hope, I think, what we're trying to communicate to the bill sponsors is like the data that the state collects needs to be the same data that the local communities collect, so that, the information, we're comparing apples to apples the whole time. So that local communities then can develop housing action plans that are responsive to the needs in their community with particular, and I think we are advocating for a particular attention for low and moderate income households in those housing action plans, because you could have a housing needs assessment that says, well, we need to build more housing for people making 200% of your income. But there's also, that might be one data point in a housing needs assessment, but there's still a need for like below 60, and their housing action plan could be like, oh, we're gonna go address the 200% because like that's what's politically expedient, and that's profitable. So yeah, so that bill attempts to do that and then incorporate some of these ideas into community master planning and has a water element as well to do some water studies to make sure that housing action plans are also responsive to the water usage and availability in those communities.
Is that coming from Colorado Municipal League?
Yeah. So
I'm not a big fan.
we're working to
Of
make
the
it
law
better.
or the municipal league?
Well, I mean, they're trying to protect their interests, which is, you know, they don't want to print their sovereignty. But they're trying to, I don't know, it feels more to me more like subterfuge of, you know, well, let's study the problem to death and then maybe it'll go away somehow. Because there are no targets, you have to do a housing needs assessment, but it doesn't say you have to build any certain number of units. So, to me, I don't see the value. We all recognize that there's an issue and what the need is. And we're just going to divert resources to studying the problem again.
I have a big picture question.
Sure.
Like, Boulder has a goal of 15% affordable units, and we're like at 8% or something,
8.5.
8.5, yay.
Yeah.
Could there be some sort of statewide legislation that says every community needs to have either a certain amount of affordable housing within their community or contribute money to other communities? Because housing affordability is a statewide issue, not just a local issue, and yet it doesn't seem like every municipality is willing to commit to goals of affordability.
I would love it if we could do that. I don't know how politically feasible it, you know, if everybody was doing their fair share, or contributing to their fair share, like, you know, Cherry Hills Village is never gonna build affordable housing.
But they have the money to subsidize somebody else to build affordable housing.
Right, but then we get into like transportation, greenhouse climate issues, right? Like it is all connected, but yeah, it'd be really interesting to think about, you know, and Prop 123 in some ways is trying to get at this, like you opt in to get money and you're incentivized to build affordable housing in your community because of the money that's behind Prop 123, right? You make a commitment to build 3% per year over a 3-year average. Like I should have it. I should have pulled it up. I don't know what Boulder's goal was in terms of units. But
I can't remember.
it was a lot.
We'll meet it, but as long as they don't change the definition. Anyway.
Yeah.
But you missed last meeting with David Driscoll. So I would,
Did you talk about that?
he talks about California
Uh,
and what California is doing and basically mandating that each individual community has to reach a certain target for goals, or else they're going to lose their ability to regulate land use. The state's going to take over.
So, is that on the website and I can listen to last month's? Perfect. Thank you. Sorry about that.
I'm gonna switch to the next page because there's a few more. House Bill 1308 was the bill I mentioned that had the incentive in it for land donations. It was basically a 2-part bill. So the Prop 123 part got taken out, but what remains is some one codifying the governor's executive order from August around timelines that the Division of Housing has in order to contract. So they were taking like 240 days to on average to execute contracts, which meant with 8 projects that we studied in the Denver area, it was like 9 years worth of delays and $8 million in extra carrying costs in the form of like bridge loans that projects were having to take on more debt because they were waiting on a contract to execute with the state. So the governor push those timelines, and this will codify that as well as make a change to the charter for the Division of Housing. And this is like super geeky, but right now the Division of Housing charter says that part of their mandate is to have a return on investment, to maximize the return on investment to the state. Which means a lot of the money that's going out the door, a lot of taxpayer money that's going out the door is going out in the form of loans. We would prefer to see that money go out in the form of grants because that helps capital stacks, and it's kind of a philosophical issue of whether the state should be a lender in that way. So there's a change to that language that would encourage them to sort of see their mission differently, and hopefully get kind of creative and in their thinking about how money goes out the door. House Bill 1107 is an interesting bill as well. I don't know how many land use decisions here have been challenged in court. But right now there's no disincentive for community members to challenge local government's land use decision, which can delay projects, it can add to project costs, it can make projects go away. This would add a disincentive in the form of if a judicial ruling is in favor of the local government, those who brought the suit have to pay the local government's attorney's fees. So it just ups the ante a little bit for opposition to those land use decisions, because when a local government makes land use decisions, it's not this is something I've been learning. It's not actually a legislative process, like passing a resolution or passing an ordinance is a legislative process. It's actually a judicial process. So it's Rule 106 is kind of the avenue into the courts, and we've seen projects die because of this. So this would disincentivize that and up the ante a little
It's
bit.
really interesting. Would that have applied in something like the lawsuit against the factory?
That would have been great.
The flip side I could offer is often when there's a fee shifting provision like that and you lose and you face fees, that encourages you to appeal because you don't want to pay the fees. So it can also have the effect of dragging the process out, because it's like, well, now we have to pay the $500 appeal fee because we don't want to pay the $5,000 in attorney fees. So, but it does, whenever someone faces a fee shifting provision, I do think that could deter litigation.
We're frequently reminded that planning board is quasi judicial
Mhm.
because they're making all these land use decisions.
Right.
And
So we're about to do like a big Boulder Valley comp plan. Would this impact that at all?
I don't know the answer to that question, but I don't think so.
Okay.
Because the plan would be kind of the framework for making some of these decisions, right? Like, we want to do these things, that's kind of the plan, and then the actual doing of them is the decision making. It's that judicial process. There's a bill to create a middle income housing tax credit that mirrors the affordable housing credit. So this would still be rental, but it would be a pilot program for a tax credit like our state tax credit, but for a little bit higher income. And then Senate Bill 146 is an interesting bill that would offer a tax credit for renters.
Could you explain a little bit about how that middle income housing tax credit would work?
Sure. It would work almost exactly like the state affordable housing credit. It would be administered by CHFA. It would be for incomes of 80 to 120% of the area median income, or up to 140 in the resort communities. But same sort of principle, private investment into the development of housing. So,
Right, so tax credit for the developer, not for the homeowner. Okay, got it.
So I have a question. Seems to me there are a lot of developers who want 9% tax credits, but there aren't enough of them. And so in addition to all of these new ideas, is there anything in there to get more 9% money so that great projects don't have to maybe wait several rounds before they get the funding?
that's an issue for Congress.
Okay.
And there is, in the tax bill that passed the House, are some, measures that will help with, the tax credit program, mostly the 4% side of things. Lowers the bond cap, which, you know, right now you have to have 50% of the project has to have, has to have bond, from the state or from the state, and lowers that threshold so that it frees up more tax credit money, basically. And it does some other really technical things, but yeah, with the way Congress works, and the federal tax credit is a bipartisan thing, you know, in 86, like it's got bipartisan support because it's on the one hand developing affordable housing, and on the other side, like it's got private investment doing the work, right? It's not direct subsidy. It's private capital that's making the investment. So there is, and it hasn't been introduced, but I heard from Chaffa today that it will be introduced as an expansion of our state credit, which will stand alone. The expansion will stand alone, so it doesn't have to be paired with the 4% credit. You know, and I know I'm probably talking nonsense to some people, but that'll help to kind of you know, because the state credit in the last 8 years has helped create about 11,000 units of affordable housing. So expanding that will, you know, just kind of continue the trajectory of that.
Another question about the middle income housing tax credit. Is this something that any other states are doing?
I think we're one of the first to do this. There is a federal MITEC bill that Senator Wyden is sponsoring. But probably not gonna, again, the dysfunction in Congress probably.
It's a little bit of a brave new world.
And I assume Housing Colorado is supporting that one, or?
We are, yeah.
So I've had a hard time with it just because it's a taxpayer subsidy to property owners who want to rent to middle income that are already affordable to middle income earners, at least in Boulder. So it feels like, I don't know, from Boulder's perspective, I'm not sure there's a strong need for it. But
Well, so this is
there
for new construction. So it's new construction of deed restricted properties for 80 to 120% AMI.
restricted. But then you can't use any federal sources of funds that we have the 60% AMI limit.
Right. So this would have to, you know, you'd have to do your capital stack with this alone and not the federal credits.
Is it gonna be enough to cover the difference?
That's why it's a pilot program.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm interested to see how it works out. I'm just cautiously optimistic.
Are there more pages of bills coming?
That is it. It's time for questions.
I have another question. Oh, I'm sorry, were you gonna,
I was gonna.
go ahead, you go, I'll go next.
The sort of the thing that kind of got glossed over was the 1304 parking minimum.
Oh, sure. Sorry.
And you kind of just said it was just gonna eliminate them. Is it really that simple? It's just gonna eliminate parking minimums?
That is.
And can I jump up on the table and dance around?
The hard thing that this bill is gonna have is it's also got a parking study in there conducted by CDOT, so it's got an appropriation, it's got a fiscal note on it. But the way that it is written, and we had a little consternation about this because in some communities like Denver, they've knocked down parking minimums for affordable, and that's been an incentive, you know, so you can compete for dirt market rate because you don't have to park at the same as a market rate. But, you know, kind of on the other side of things is like, you know, let the market determine what parking needs to be there. So it's, yeah, it would, but it's only in the metropolitan planning organizations. I should have mentioned that. So it's not statewide, but Boulder would, Boulder's in an MPO. So, yeah,
Interesting.
parking requirements would go away.
there's a lot of work happening locally on this issue that, you know, folks could pivot to something else that needs to get done.
Couple of questions about the politics of all this,
Uh-huh.
really ambitious. Was all this really included in the omnibus bill of 2020?
Not all of it was,
So
so,
this is more.
so this is more, so ADUs. Transit-oriented communities, statewide housing needs assessment. Occupancy limits, and to some extent, parking was a part of last year's bill. So all of those are kind of what's been broken out. The strategic growth bill, there were kind of behind the scenes two competing measures moving forward. Senators Zenzinger and Kirkmeyer kind of, you know, talk about the politics of it, like they are two very powerful senators because they sit on the they sit on the Joint Budget Committee. And on their bill, they also have Senator or Representative Byrd, who's on to the JVC, as well as Senator Bridges. So they've got 4 out of the 6 members of the Joint Budget Committee on their strategic growth bill. So, in a budget year where each chamber has, I think I heard $12.5 million to be able to spend. The JBC always is a powerful space, but in budget years like the one we have now because of Tabor, they're even more powerful. So, that's the one that's kind of outside of the kind of the governor's push for some of these things. But the other 4 are really priority bills for the administration and for the leadership.
And is it fair to say that the opposition to the omnibus bill last year stands, or has there been any movement and still
Yeah,
local control issues?
local control, like the transit oriented communities bill does, like, it has the incentives that I mentioned.
Right.
It's got an infrastructure for, developing near transit, but it also has a pretty big stick. So it's got those carrots, but it's got, if you don't do the upzoning, your transportation dollars get withheld, which, local government is not a fan of that.
It wouldn't just be for running the buses.
No, it would be like fixing the potholes.
Yeah, right.
So we got about a month change. What's going to happen?
That's a good question. So everything is stuck in appropriations right now. We're working on the budget this week and next. Once appropriation starts moving things, we'll kind of see what the politics are on some of these bills a little bit more deeply as they get to the full chambers. Like I mentioned, parking has a fiscal note on it. Transit-oriented communities has a fiscal note. The occupancy limits bill, I need to check where that is, but it doesn't have a fiscal note, and I think it's passed through the House. I don't know where it's at in the Senate right now. ADUs has a fiscal note. So they've all, because there's incentives involved.
Fiscal note means there has to be budgeted.
It has to have, if it has a fiscal note, it means that state money, general fund money will have to be spent. Which again, there's $12.5 million in each chamber, so.
Oh, before we get Karen, your next, what's your crystal ball say?
I think some of these are gonna get across the finish line. Last year, the opposition that was mounted to 213 that killed it in the Senate, nothing's changed. So a lot of these bills started in the House, and I don't have a great read on the politics in the Senate, whether some of those moderate Democrats are the ones who were able to join with the Republicans in the Senate to first strip everything out of 213 when it passed the chamber. The House added everything back in and more, and then to kill it on the calendar in the Senate. So I think that's probably the one that's got the hardest, road ahead of it.
So construction defects, in the past, Democrats have been not in favor of reform there because they see this compromise consumer protection. Has there been any movement on?
So it passed through the Senate committee on I think on Monday, with Senator Exum and the Republicans voting for it. So the chair of the committee voted for it, and then the remaining Democrats voted against it. Vote count has, I think, 6 Democrats in the Senate on board, so it's got a chance of passing the Senate. There's a competing bill starting in the House that I didn't mention that would do things like extend the statute of repose instead of so extend it from 6 to 10 years, which would do some things. It would, it's kind of just the polar opposite of Senate Bill 106. So that's moving through the House. So, it'll be an interesting fight. I think the work on construction defects is going to take a couple of years. If it goes on for a long time, it's going on for a long time.
Karen, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So there is significant concern about the future of office and empty office buildings and what it's doing to the vitality of various downtowns. And most developers claim that you'll need a lot of subsidies in order to convert them from office into residential, but in theory, that could be a home ownership or a rental, maybe not for, luxury renters, but it's certainly better than sleeping in a tent.
Right.
So is there anything in this legislation that addresses office conversion?
There is a bill, and we're tracking 21 different bills, so I didn't put them all in this presentation. And forgive me, the number is not sticking with me, but it's like a really small tax credit for office conversions. Like really small, like $5 million or something, which probably isn't enough for a single project.
Yeah.
So that there's some conversation around that, I live with somebody who works in a design studio, an architecture firm, and they're really hard to do. Because the apron isn't right, the windows aren't right. There's a lot that has to go on, but you're right, it'll take a lot of subsidy.
Smaller buildings, but a smaller building is not going to produce as much housing in that conversion.
Yeah. Every little bit helps.
Yeah, Republic Plaza is probably not going to.
But
Thank you.
the city of Denver they've done a study
They have.
of trying to identify some properties that could be converted.
Yeah.
But again, it's just gonna take a lot to make that happen.
Yeah. Thank you.
My other questions? My last slide is my contact information. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. But yeah, if you ever have questions or concerns or, something comes up, feel free to reach out. We're happy to be a resource.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. And let me mention that Housing Colorado does a fantastic conference in the fall, right?
It is
October, it's to rub elbows with other housing advocates, so keep an eye out for that.
with 1,000 of your friends.
Right. Well, if there's no other questions, let's have a hand for Brian. Appreciate you coming down the turnpike to.
Yeah, happy to.
And it's exciting. I mean,
Yeah.
To see some things get through would be a big improvement over no things.
For sure.
So. Free to hang out and eat more or listen to us gab or.
I might head
Get on,
back so I
get
can
on.
see my
my kids before they go to bed, if that's okay.
Or you can hang out with us.
Well, I really appreciate the invitation and the dinner.
Anybody want to get up and take a quick break or get more food before we go on the agenda? We don't have much luck. That ends item 6, matters from the board, matters from staff. It's been suggested that we forego a meeting in April and have a retreat. If you want to talk about what that might look like. Today or?
Yeah, so, well, you described it well earlier. So it's an annual thing. It's really more about you guys getting to know each other, how you function as a group. And it's an opportunity to set priorities for the next year. So, and typically staff does not attend. And part of the reason I suggested April is because I'm going to be on vacation again. And then that way we'll provide a meeting space for you guys. But it's whatever the format is. We can also provide a facilitator, but I think last year Danny facilitated.
And you did a really good job. Yeah.
But I would recommend if there's someone who wanted to help organize it, along with Michael. Particularly if you're interested in potentially becoming chair or vice chair. It's a good opportunity.
The transition. So we do re-elect chair and vice chair once a year, and that'll be coming up in May. Anybody, how does that actually work? Can you self-nominate?
Yeah.
Good.
How long is your term? And is there a
Uh,
limit to you doing it again if we wanted to volunteer you?
I'm kind of like a Supreme Court justice at this point. I think this is my 3rd year as chair. You know, the power is going to my head, so maybe it's time for somebody to lop that head off. Be happy if someone else wanted to step up.
But there's no prohibition of you serving longer if you're so nominated.
No term limits.
Okay.
Yeah.
He has to be a HAB member.
True.
That's it.
Fair.
Yeah, the retreat, really useful. But actually leads me to ask, you may recall last meeting, we approved our letter to council in advance of their retreat, which started like tomorrow, I think. Have you gotten any feedback on that, Jay, since it was submitted?
I'm not sure it's even gone to council yet. Did you send it separately?
I didn't send it. I thought it was supposed to, I was supposed to send it.
So I submitted it to the council assistant. And she is going to bundle them all and send them to council as part of the retreat packet.
Okay, I had it in my calendar that last Friday was the deadline to submit it to council. You think it's been delivered?
I'll find out, but I assume so. Your other option is to send it directly as just so that you could do it that way, because it goes to more than just council.
Mhm.
That's a good way to highlight it.
I actually have the final version with the proper date. Would you mind?
I can send it to you.
That'd be great. And
I'd
then-
like to see the final version too.
I sent it to the whole group, but I can
Yeah,
resend.
the only
Okay.
difference is the date on the previous
Okay.
version was incorrect by a year.
Just a year.
And yeah, and it is part of the public record. The council retreat starts when?
I say it's the 3rd through 3rd, 4th,
I'm sorry, when?
3rd and 4th of April.
Okay, yeah.
So next Friday, Saturday, right?
Wednesday, Thursday.
Hmm?
Thursday.
Oh, Wednesday, Thursday. Thank you.
Well, I will probably ask Danny if they next to retreat topic facilitate again, because he did such a nice job. Does anybody else want to be involved in planning? We need to talk about a date. Should we just do it on our meeting date, for example?
That'd be the easiest. I would recommend, if possible, if you could start earlier. Can people start at 5 or?
Let's do a date check first.
What date are we talking about?
That would be
April 24th?
Friday, is that a recommendation?
Because Stephanie and I won't be here to let you in.
Okay.
Well, I can.
So we would, you can,
I can meet you.
do it here and not do it here.
It's up to you. So if you want to do it someplace else, that's also an option. It's kind of nice to go someplace else and have different atmosphere.
What did we do
April-
last time?
April 24th, we were here.
I think we did it here last time. How's everyone feel about starting at 5? Would that work with your
Yeah.
work schedules?
That's gonna make it feel more retreaty.
You should do it during work.
No, I mean, I don't quite understand why we should change the time at all, but,
Tiffany can come and let you in. It was just so that Tiffany didn't have to come here to let you in the building.
Well, we would have-
because it's not a regular meeting, so you won't be here and
Correct.
the Zoom won't be going, and, okay.
Right, no Zooms, that's the other thing, so, yeah, it's not a regular meeting. We notice it as a retreat, but there's no public comment, there's no agenda.
I'm fine with earlier.
I do, let's just review this quickly. I think there might have been some.
There was something last year. I need to check with them on how we notice it.
We still notice it, but there's no. There's no public comment, it's the main thing.
There was a little,
There was something last
some
year.
dust up over that last year, how we characterized it. We either were or weren't supposed to call it a retreat. You recall that, Jake?
Yeah, there was something that there was, like it was, I noticed it as a retreat, which is supposed to be open to the public. Per the rules, so I need to talk to Alicia in the clerk's office to understand how to notice it. It depends on what you will be discussing. If you're discussing future business, I believe it has to be noticed and public has to be able to view, not necessarily participate. If you're just doing team building and not working on like your scheduled work for the year, then it's not technically a retreat, it's a team building exercise.
Mhm.
And then it is not viewable by the public.
And
So depending on what you decide to work on that day, will depend on how I notice it.
okay, well, we can decide on that. If it were solely a team building exercise, would we not call it a retreat?
Right, I call it something else and I have to check with the clerk.
If
because
we
I don't
call it
know the
retreat,
wording.
we have to say, come one, come all.
No matter what you call it, it depends on what your agenda is gonna be. So whether you call it a retreat and if you call it a retreat and do team building stuff, because it's a retreat, I have to notice it. But if you call it a team building and then you talk about policy, then we're in.
All right, well, let me.
So yeah,
I kind of remember we talked about policy quite a bit, it wasn't. And so to me, it seems weird to try to do a non-public meeting
Mhm.
that's called something else, unless we're gonna actually do team building stuff, but we haven't done that before, if I remember right.
We did some of that last time, and I don't recall how much policy we discussed. But I will note that we just had several public discussions about policy priorities that went into our letter. And so the question is, I'm open to any answer. This could be a team building exercise, since we've already had the policy discussion, or maybe we need to have more policy discussions and call it retreat. Please. Board members comment on those thoughts.
Well, but
Go ahead.
the original proposal was doing something that was just team building because you will not be available.
That's part of it.
If we did it at that time.
But in the past, even if
And it's.
we have had retreats, when you have talked about policy, staff has not been there. Yeah, thank you, Tiffany, for reminding me. We did get in a little trouble last year.
I remember talking about.
I'm not trying to get it.
So-
Yeah, after we had our, whatever it was last year, some people said this should have been posted and open for the public to at least listen, but.
So really what I need from you guys is decide what your agenda is gonna be. I'll make sure it's posted right and I'll make sure that it's done correctly. So you guys decide your agenda. I'll figure out the details for
Okay.
you, so you don't have to worry about it.
And I'm saying we need to decide that now because it's our next meeting.
Okay, opinion by Karen. So I love the way this board interacts. And I've been on boards where I've been bullied and intimidated and like it wasn't fun. And so I feel like I may not know people as well as I'd like, but I feel like it's very welcoming and accepting of people's questions and comments. So do we need team building? Certainly a lot less than other boards I've been on. With regards to policy, I do feel like that the letter that we did talked about what several of our agendas are. But like as the speaker today identified, there's a whole bunch of topics. There's a whole bunch of things that we may want to revisit, especially since we have you or the public participant who said, I think you should add more tenant rep kinds of issues. So I think we like talking policy.
And we'll have a new planning board liaison next month who will want to get to know.
Yeah.
May have ideas about policy agenda items, so seems like we should talk about policy.
I didn't mean to say I'm against team building stuff either. And kind of to your point is like, we have seen each other every week for every month for a long time, but I still feel like I don't, know what your backgrounds are very well. I don't know.
But I think we could do that element of it and then go on and say, okay, now let's talk about tenant rights or whatever. We're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know if this is just come to consensus. Shall we call it a retreat and include policy discussion as well as get to know you better?
That would be my vote.
Which means we need to reschedule?
Nope, Tiffany will be here.
Okay.
Just
Early
because we
meeting.
started earlier, so.
Yeah, I'll discuss with the clerk, figure out what the rules all are. This order that.
Food,
Oh, food, yeah, Tiffany can take care of your
that's
food.
good.
Is Laura asking to?
Laura has her hand up.
Uh,
I think I motion to let Laura speak.
Oh, look at that. Hi, Laura.
Hey, everybody, can you hear me?
yeah.
Excellent. I have been here the whole time. It's been a great meeting. I just wanted to note, I don't know if you'll have a new planning board liaison by April. I don't see on our calendar selection of a new liaison, and our meetings are kind of busy in April. So I don't know if we will get to it. Just wanted to note in case that impacts your timing.
I don't think so. We'd be happy to have you. come
Forever.
To our, whatever you want to call it.
I'm just saying.
I just meant if you wanted to include a new person, because you will get a new person shortly. It just might not be in April.
Yeah, I don't think we should. I don't think we should wait. April's a good time to have a retreat and then things might heat up. In policy discussions again, we should be. Have the retreat behind us and ready to move forward.
Okay, so nothing changes. Same time,
Not
Same date.
earlier?
That was
not earlier,
not
Up to
earlier.
you guys. I can be here whenever you
Yeah.
want to be here. so.
unless you want us to start earlier, which we can, but no reason to change it.
Earlier not work for you?
6 is better for me, the day job.
And Tiffany will notice, Michael and Danny will work on an agenda, right? That'll be a mix of team building and considering,
And we'll open the floor to policy discussions after we do. Part one.
and my recommendation is just to think about, and I'll give you the work plan that I share with the chairs before our meetings, our usual meetings. Just what do you want to talk about at each meeting for the next year? Because right now it's a bit thin.
Oh, like who we may want as guest speakers. Oh, I like
Yeah,
that.
we can talk about that.
That sounds great.
Okay, I think that covers the matters from staff. We had 2 items, the retreat and the forthcoming elections. So everyone comfortable with moving on to item 8, debrief meeting and calendar check?
I have one small thing I would like to say.
Please.
One thing that this meeting with Brian brings up for me is I wonder if part of HAB's role ought to be anticipating leaning on our state senators and reps and anticipating what's they're gonna be facing and having letters of support for different kinds of bills ready in future sessions. Is that, if we think that might be effective use of time and or no?
So you're not allowed to do that.
Okay, because it's all, it has to be city.
That has to be city council.
Thank you, sorry.
And, Carmen, you sent me an email earlier saying you wanted to add something else.
Well, interestingly enough, it was to invite Mark, who was our public speaker tonight, to come in. He and I were community neighbors for years. And we reconnected a couple of weeks ago and we went and had coffee and he's like, we were just catching up. He said, so what are you all doing about renters? And I was like, what do you want us to do about renters? So a lot of the points that he brought up in his brief 3 minutes tonight, but I think that would be one that I would recommend that sometime in the next year we have he or somebody else come in and just talk to us about the tenant advisory council. What are they called? Tenant
So I
advisory committee.
I came tonight with a question perhaps for Jay and staff, and then also an idea. So I have a contract with a nonprofit in Boulder who has a contract with the city that does the eviction defense work. There's about 5 lawyers who were there most Fridays. The way the eviction process works is, first someone gets either a notice to quit or a demand to pay and move out. And if they don't comply with it, then they usually get a summons that says you have to come to court. And in Boulder County, that means you have to come to court at 9 a.m. on a Friday. And that's your initial appearance. And there's attorneys there that tenants who are facing eviction can meet with. There's also city staff there that provides mediation services. They connect people with rental assistance if they're eligible. There's also someone there who tracks data to this point. I don't know if that's happening on a statewide level. It certainly happens in Boulder. And then depending on the outcome, sometimes tenants reach a resolution with their landlord, or they decide they want to fight the eviction, in which case it gets set for a trial, usually 7 to 10 days out. A lot of the times people do enter some sort of stipulation on that first hearing, some sort of agreement with their landlord saying I'll pay or move out by a certain date. And if I don't, then I agree the sheriff can come or something along those lines. Every case is different. I'm curious, I've always thought, we do probably evictions better than probably anywhere else in Colorado and Boulder. I just feel like we're more resourced than a lot of other jurisdictions. One thing I've thought perhaps we could add, I'm curious, is there anyone in city government whose job it is to help connect low-income people with job resources, job applications, job openings, things along those lines? And if so, and I imagine there is, and if so, that person should be at court on Fridays, because the most common reason why someone's being evicted is I can't afford my rent. And usually the story has something to do with I lost my job or something along those lines. And we do a great job connecting people with lawyers to help navigate the legal process, staff with the city to connect them with potential rental assistance funds. But I think the third step is, eventually rental assistance runs out, people lose eligibility. Some tenants are there and they've been evicted before, they're not eligible for rental assistance. Step 3 is here's someone you can talk to about employment. And many evictions happen, for a whole host of reasons, but one of them is I'm unemployed. And I just think having that resource available at court on Fridays from 9 to noon could probably make a big difference in people's lives. And I'm sure if it's available, it's probably available to them through some other channel. But I think if they were actually at the Justice Center, that could make a huge difference. So I don't know if there's a person who does that. I assume there is.
Yeah, I'm not aware of anyone in the city, but I'm pretty sure that there should be someone at the county.
Yeah, just
that could provide that service.
Job resources. It's not like free jobs, but someone who can help with connecting people to job boards, resume, that sort of thing. And if that exists, so
there's also financial assistance, like helping someone figure out how to manage their finances.
Right.
Sort of another need.
So I just thought that's sort of a good place, and I feel like people who are in those positions, they're like looking for people to help and.
Mhm.
Maybe a courthouse isn't where they normally go, but this is a really good opportunity to connect people who are in need with, you know, social service. So that's just an idea I had as a lawyer. I don't do the employment work, but I just see that as an opportunity. So I don't know, should we make city council or what, but I thought I'd raise it.
Yeah, that's a good one. We can talk about it more next. Anybody else? Okay, we'll go to item 8. We had an official HAB meeting today with 5 members present as a quorum. We approved our minutes from last month. We had one public participant talking about those very issues that Stephen just raised around affordable rentals and trying to prevent evictions. We had an excellent housing legislative update. God, it must have been practically a dozen bills reviewed by Brian Rosberg, the Executive Director of Housing Colorado, statewide group that advocates for affordable. We discussed the April retreat. I believe we are now going to retreat at the same time, same place next month. And we announced the chair and vice chair elections in May. Calendar check, we've already decided that April 24th will be the day of that retreat at the regular meeting time, 6 p.m. And the May meeting, I believe we decided would be moved till May 15th. So that will be pretty quickly after the retreat. Anyone have anything to add to any of those? Any of that summary? Okay, could I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Wow, that's earlier than usual.
Shorter agenda than usual.
Terry wasn't here.